Hello, people of the internet, and I think for this week's video, I will be doing something a little bit different. I am going to go over the Facts of Anarchy by Ito Noe. Um, Basically, and if I'm doing this all on the fly, so if I mess up at all, that's why. This is totally unscripted, and yeah, that's so let's get on with it. So Ito Noe, who is she? Well, she was an anarchist and a feminist who worked for what is called the Blue Stocking Society, was a Japanese um, feminist organization. She was a Japanese feminist anarchist who translated works by Emma Goldman into Japanese. Emma Goldman was queen. She was awesome, by the way. So Ito Noe, I'm going to go over her essay, The Facts of Anarchy, which is essentially a nice, interesting, but short kind of view on how anarchist society would probably have worked back then and could probably work now, in fact. So yeah, it's this is going to be more commentary than, just reading over like the previous video. Anyway, getting on with it. Uh what the first paragraph here is essentially about the making fun of the notion that in order for a socialist society to work or a communist society to work, there has to be a central authority, which is not really the case. It seems she's basically kind of flipping off those people. She's giving a kind of a middle finger to them, saying that essentially saying that we don't necessarily need a central authority to make anarchism work. Um, and then in the next sections, she talks about how exactly she's seen anarchist communism in her own life and how it worked and how it could be applied in places elsewhere. Let's see. The um the first paragraph says there are 60 to 70 houses divided into six small associations, and there are these six associations federate with each other as the occasion demands. There are no chains of command or officials. The spirit of association inherited from their ancestors is to assist others in times of trouble. So basically, yeah, it's the typically anarchists advocate for rather small societies, and to be fair, I think that is probably the best way for anarchism to work, though societies have grown much larger since Ito Noe's time, and so we're gonna have to find a way to accommodate that reality. Um, Obviously there is no central authority, but there is an association. People associate with each other as needed, and people assist each other as needed. It's not exactly something that's top down or authoritarian in any way, shape, or form. Everything is from the bottom up. How meetings go at village in the village meetings, in the third paragraph here, or in the fourth paragraph rather here, is that essentially everyone was perfectly allowed to just speak their mind. They were nobody there was no arrogance, there was no nobody had to lower themselves in any way either. It was everyone was just speaking as equals, more or less. Everyone had a say. Everyone had, it was kind of a one citizen, one vote. Well, even though maybe not necessarily a vote thing, but like everyone had a say and everybody had an opinion. Everyone's voice counted for something. And that's a good thing. The atmosphere was totally tolerant and accepting of all viewpoints. And so long as there was no harm being done to the community. Decisions were made together, generally if it is practical or based on on clear facts, even more if everyone has offered his knowledge and opinions. The decisions will be reached spontaneously. I love this essay. When a sick person must take to his bed, the news will be reported to the association. The members will rush to the house. Some will get a doctor, others will report to relatives. They go on these errands or nurse him kindly. Basically, the once someone is sick, then everyone takes care of that person. And they do it in general because it's not they don't as the next paragraph shows, there's always going to be complaints, and this is the next paragraph is about childbirth and how everyone, when a woman is giving birth, everyone will assist the mother and that child. Um, Even if everybody complains, or even if there are some complaints, even if there are some kind of a grievance, or if even if the members of the association speak ill of each other, they still do what they need to do for the person who gave birth, for the, as in this in the previous paragraph, or as as the person becomes ill or sick in any way. Everyone does essentially what they need to do for the community. It's for the people. It's for the common good. Like, for instance, as Mikhail Bakunin said, the freedom of all is essential to my freedom. Essentially, freedom and being able to help each other so that we can all be free together. That is the essence of anarchism. The next paragraph on which starts getting into like larger scale issues. Administrative tasks are shared by the members. If a particular task is long-lasting, shifts are arranged so that there is no inconvenience. The responsibility of each member to the association is not coerced or unwilling. He performs his role to follow his conscience. No command or supervision is needed. Everyone is essentially doing their work voluntarily. That's beautiful. I believe that is beautiful. I think that's exactly why work would be done in an anarchist society, because people realize that it needs to be done. There's no two ways about it. It needs to be done. That's all. After the satisfactory task, then the association for that particular task would be dissolved, and of course the units, the federation, or more or less, like, as we would probably call the commune, is all essentially it's still a kind of alliance. It's still a federation. They still are allied with each other. They are still autonomous as well. They all follow their own rule, their own individual practices, as long as it doesn't hurt anybody, of course. There were no real police. If anything, police they saw as useless. Quarrels were usually settled within the association, essentially, again, from the bottom up. A couple, like, for instance, if someone ever stole from the village, the victim had proof, then the victim of the crime, that of the robbery, they would be, they would scold their thief or robber or whatever, and both victims will agree on some kind of a settlement in order to ensure that their crime wouldn't be committed again. And if their crime was committed again, then they would be expelled. Now, the thing about lack of policing, I do think that in a larger scale societies like what we would have now, we would probably need some kind of a policing, like, maybe, not entirely sure. It's possible. I mean, but of course there wouldn't be a centralized authority. It would be a kind of a community managed self-defense force. You could for more info on that, I would recommend checking out fellow YouTuber Thought Slime's video on the police and why cops are bad. He goes into a very, very good alternative for policing, which is, as he called, the community managed self-defense force, or something of that nature. And it was essentially a community community managed defense that was managed from the bottom up. It was the society, the people that were in control of the police. There was no state. That would that's a good thing, because then the police, if they existed in this anarchist society at all, um, would be managed by the people, not by a government, not by an authoritarian state, nothing of that nature. Um, the next paragraph: if there was a crime that was committed that was so terrible that it could not be forgiven, then the last resort would be expulsion, which is kind of what I tend to say when if someone were to ask like, what would you do in an anarchist society if a Nazi ended up in that community, like if someone was trying to spread Nazi rhetoric of some kind. I would say exile would be a good method of keeping them away. It's a way of keeping the community safe. It's a way of making sure that there is no corruption in the community, and it's a way of disincentivizing people ever becoming Nazis or becoming people who spread Nazi rhetoric and support Nazi ideas. Um, though of course, Ito Noe also says that that was kind of rare in this society. And then I love how she ends this. She says, the egoistic urban life is intolerable to those who are accustomed to village life, where there is no hope of success besides poverty. It is far more comfortable and warm to support each other under the protection of the association. Now, because cities and urban societies are now a reality that I'm sure we must take into account, that we must uh, understand and learn to. We could probably learn to use cities in some way, shape, or form, um, in an anarchist society. Even though, while many anarchists tend to prefer, small towns, villages, and things like, and more rural things like that, societies and places like that, though I am not entirely sure if we could get rid of cities entirely. I mean, obviously not. They're a reality that exists now, and we can probably use them for something. I will have to look into that. Of course, I'm still learning like everyone else. I'm still kind of new to theory and these literatures and ideas. I'm still exploring the philosophy of anarchism, and especially leftist anarchism. And I'm sure that it is possible to make an urban society anarchist. Like some, in a way that is managed by the community, not by a central authority of any kind. So anyway, yeah, I love this essay, and I think that Ito Noe has written a very influential piece here. I hope that more people see it. I will actually leave a link to it in the description or in the comments if need be. And yeah, this is Facts of Anarchy by Ito Noe, and check it out.